Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I share with you guys part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Atasha Jordan, and we touch on the points of faith and mental health. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. To touch on how does culture, in your opinion, intersect with faith and mental health?
Yeah, so, it's the way I think about it is this idea that faith is one section of our culture. So, with that, now we think about the idea that there's spirituality and that people who are of faith, and in the US, it is still by far the vast majority of people in this country who are spiritual to some extent and or religious. And the idea that our spiritual health and our mental health are actually two very different things, I don't think is a conversation that is had often enough. And what that leads to is coming from that culture. There are a lot of churches, and I hope that this is something that is kind of changing in this day and age. But churches where they are encouraging people to kind of pray away the anxiety or pray away the worry or the depression or whatever it is or pray away addiction, things of that nature. Recognizing, obviously, I am a Christian myself, that faith has an important part, but then it blocks us from recognizing the roles that medication and therapy have when we're thinking about addressing issues with mental health.
And I think when I tell patients, when especially the caregivers who are really big on their faith, and I think that that's amazing. Like, we're going to touch on how spirituality can actually help your mental health, but I like to kind of tell them as like, God is giving you the resources that are out there, like if you're thirsty, you can go ahead and drink water, so it's like you're not, there's just basic steps to help yourself feel better. And I think, mental health and physical health are both important. And I think that in our society, mental health is still a stigma. And there is not a lot of empathy for mental health. Like I feel like if you were to tell someone I had an accident, I was in the hospital, like there's just a lot of empathy. But if you tell them I have an anxiety attack and I was in the hospital, like there's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like
exactly that face you made is exactly what happens. They'll be like,
like the reaction is not the same. Agree with faith being helpful and also a deterrent, especially if there is this sort of, I think that I grew up Christian as well, and there is a lot of like, I've often experienced that myself, like, well, you just got to pray that away, then you shouldn't be anxious, you shouldn't feel this way because you're a child of God. And like, yes, that's true, but we are also human, and I think that God can use our emotions to guide us too. And it's important to be mindful of, I tell, patients that it's so important to listen to your body. It's so important to know where your triggers are, because your body is sending signals to your brain, like it just all works together that things are not okay. And so praying away or pushing things through is only going to get you, it's not going to get you far. And so what are some ways that you, I don't know, what would you say to people who are of faith on, who have faith, they have a lot of faith in God, or they have a lot of faith in their own belief system, what their religion is, and they believe that that's going to be the cure? Like, how would you sort of help them be redirected to resources that could also help them in the mental health field?
Yeah, no, I think that's an important question, because what basically to me it sounds like you're asking is, how do we know when our faith is enough? which could be a controversial question, because I think a lot of times people want to say that our faith is always enough. But the issue that I have with that is the idea that when we, let's say, going to the idea of worrying, because there's this common phrase where people say you can't worry and pray at the same time, where that's supposed to mean that you should pray to get rid of worry. The issue I have there is what we have is like the normal experience. You were kind of talking about that before. We have our normal emotions, and people get anxious. Like right now, we're living in a very uncertain time with the pandemic, and the idea of anxiety, it's common. I think the issue is when we think about faith and the role that faith plays in that, is your anxiety at a normal level where you are still able to function on the day-to-day, where you're still able to kind of get through your day in a way that you don't feel overly distressed or incapacitated to the point of not being able to function. So that's where, in a lot of psychological and in our mental health diagnoses, it's thinking about how do these behaviors and these emotional states and these thoughts, the cognitive processes that we have, how does that affect our functioning? So when you're starting to get to a point of you literally cannot function, like you are so anxious, like you are not leaving the house, you can't, well, I mean, technically some of us are not supposed to be leaving the house, but if you need to go to work, or you can't do it because you have so much anxiety, or you're at work and unable to focus on what's going on, maybe your mood might be so low that you literally cannot do the things that you had been able to do before. That's where now, like, if you have a normal level of sadness where it's like something has happened and let's say someone has passed away, or you broke up with a partner or something like that, that's a normal sadness experience where prayer and your faith can help to support you through that temporary situation. But if this is now to the point where it's like you can't get out of bed, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, you're not able to focus, you're feeling hopeless, feeling suicidal, any of these things, that's where the prayer will not be enough. And I can say that confidently because you would need more than that. And I think that's what I really want to get the conversation started of, when do we recognize when prayer is only going to support you so much and you need to then turn to a doctor or a psychologist who can help you with therapy to help you to learn different thought processes, or someone who can prescribe medications that literally change the chemical processes going on in your brain to help you to feel better. And I want us to just be able to recognize that medications are helpful, just like, someone with diabetes is going to take metformin, or they're going to take insulin to help with their glucose control. Someone with depression might need some medication to help with their serotonin levels. So I want to make that conversation just as easy to talk about as it is to talk about high blood pressure or diabetes or anything like that.
Yeah. I think it's about like demystifying medication in some cultures, like in the Latino culture, it's like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to go to a psychiatrist because I'm fine. I'm not crazy, or like this medication is going to make me act in a weird way. But like you said, medication can help with the chemicals in your brain, and it's not going to, I think it's tailored. If it's quality care, it could be tailored to your needs, and they're not going to give someone like a large dose if that's not what they need of something that is not going to work for them. And it's a trial and error, it's just, it's a process. And I really like what you said about prayer not being, knowing when prayer is enough, but knowing when you need more. Thank you for watching part 2 of my series with Dr. Jordan on culture, faith, spirituality, and mental health. Today's episode was great. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so you get notified of more videos, and please subscribe.